Welcome back everyone to this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program Release 1.0. Now you'll remember from the last episode we left our beginnings of our space station in orbit around Minmus, and here it is, lovely as it looks. It has the colony control centre there at the top. It has two gigantor solar panels. It also has our light up docking port, as we saw there at the bottom, and another little diddy docking port there at the top. So, now if we check our contract, which was to build this new orbital station around Minmus, you can see we have a station. It is a new station with an antenna, a docking port, and can generate its own power, hence the gigantor solar array we have attached. We have to have a research lab in the station, and the Colony Command Centre does include a research station, and it needs to be there for at least 10 seconds. So Val and Bill have had to hold their breath for a full 10 seconds in order for us to find ourselves positioned as we are today. But we haven't completed this station or this contract quite yet, because the facility needs to support at least 8 Kerbals. At present, we only have 2. So let's get back to the VAB and build ourselves a second segment to this station that can accommodate further Kerbals. I've loaded up the Colony Command Centre. This is the vehicle that we have just been looking at, that is currently orbiting Minmus, and the reason I've done that is because I want to save this lower section, if I can reach right in here and grab that there, because I want to save this as a sub-assembly, because we can use that to send up the next section. So let's just grab that stack decoupler and drop it down here on the sub-assembly drop zone, and name it what do we name it? Space Station. I can't spell anything today. Station Launcher. There we go. Space Station Launcher. Launcher. Let's try Launcher. There we go. So let's save that, and then we can bin. We can grab hold of it and just bin that section there. Now we want to replace pretty much the whole thing with a habitation module, which again comes out of the MKS OKS pack, and it's going to look pretty much exactly the same as we have right here. So how shall we do this to save a little bit of time? We can take that cap off there. We can also change, let's see if we can change the root part from here. Let's call this this docking port right up here at the top the new root part, because then we can rip off the Colony Command Centre, dump that away. And if we go back to our filter by function section and we have a look for colonization modules, let's see if it's under here. That's the storage module. Oh, here we go. OKS habitation ring. This has a crew capacity of a further 10, so that should be plenty. And as you can see, it doesn't really look like the picture, does it? So let's just plop that on there and put the cap back on there, because it's an inflatable module. So we can deploy this module, and you can see it inflates rather large, and we have ourselves a habitation ring. It rather looks upside down. I don't think that really matters, but there you go. So we have ourselves a habitation ring, and it's pretty much done and dusted. That is pretty much our habitation module all sorted. So let's just retract that module, get it back to its launch stage. Now the next thing we need to do, because we are going to have to dock this section, so I suggest we change the root part again. So this was originally the root part. For the sake of argument, let's make this inflatable module the new root part, because I want to take this off and get ourselves, I'll tell you what, why don't we rip off a copy of this lower section here, turn it upside down and drop it on the top. There we go. So now we've got a relatively symmetrical section. We do have some extra batteries up here on top, and we have some extra... Oh, no, not that. We want to try and we have some of these extra thruster blocks. Let's get rid of the batteries and the thruster blocks for now. We've got ourselves some more supplies in there, just so we have some. Wouldn't want the habitation module to go without supplies. So this is going to be our module, and this is the module that's going to attach to the bottom section of the docking station. It's going to have to do it as this section. So what I'm going to do is bring up the RCS build aid and just reposition our thruster blocks so as not to have this rotation. And I think that rotation is being caused by the slight change in weight due to the life support packs, because otherwise we know it's entirely symmetrical. So let us grab hold of these blocks here, make sure we have a set of 4, and we need to reposition these. We probably can't position them high enough up, so let's have a look at moving these blocks. Let's have a look. If we look over at the RCS build aid, we can see the torque going down to 0.052 kilonewtons. So let's take that up as high as we can go, or rather as low as the figure will go. There we go. Oh, that's slightly off center. 0. There we go. Absolute 0. Absolute 0. So we have a torque of nothing. So this module should be able to translate perfectly well. It's not going to lose much fuel asymmetrically because we have fuel at the top and the bottom, so the centre of mass and the dry centre of mass shouldn't change. So this should be pretty good. Now, I am wondering whether we should add a few extras to this section. I'm just wondering whether it needs... we don't have any batteries, and we might need that for manoeuvring with the SAS. So what I'm tempted to do is just make a little change down here at either end. So let's go back to batteries, and let's just plonk a little battery on the end. Now is that... It's not actually on, there we go. So let's just, I think it is, yes it is. Right, so let's plonk a little battery on that end, and just to keep it symmetrical we'll do exactly the same. So there's batteries, and those batteries then will give the SAS some power to manoeuvre with. And I think we might add some of our cannot do without photovoltaic panels as well. So that should keep us just with a little bit of charge in our little tiny batteries, just long enough so that we can dock this particular module, because that's all we've got to do. We've just got to drop it off and have the RCS maneuver it into place. Now I'm noting our torque has gone up to a fractional 0.011 kilonewtons, but I'm sure that won't be a problem for the SAS to control. Famous last words. So let's call this the habitation module Mark 1 that we're building here. And then let's go to our sub-assemblies. Let's drag out our sub-assembly. There we go, our launch sub-assembly. Tuck that on the bottom there. Now we can see, you can probably just about see these blue lines here. These are the blue lines representing where procedural fairings will generate the fairing, and of course it's now currently ducking through the center of this module. So if we click on the fairing base, we can either change the size or just give it a little bit of extra radius, and I think that's what we'll do. We'll just plop on a smidgen of extra radius. I think if you see the line just here, I think we've got just about enough space to do that. So let's go back to our aerodynamics section and get our favorite egg-shaped fairing and drop that on like so. There we go. So there's our egg-shaped fairing. Looks substantially taller. looks substantially taller than the previous fairing, doesn't it? Why is that going to be so much taller? I guess we've got the extra batteries, we've got the extra RCS fuel. So okay, that probably adds up. So let's just plop these back on again. There we go. So I'm a little bit worried it might flex a bit. Bit worried it might flex, but let's give it a go, shall we? Let's save this. Let's save this rather natty new of a vessel and get it out on the launch pad and see if we can get there. See you in a moment. Now, I hope most of you will notice that we're not actually out on the launch pad, and that's because we forgot a few things, and I'm sure you were all screaming them at the screen to tell me what they were. Now, the first and most obvious is the fact that our egg-shaped fairings are down here at the bottom of the stage, and we forgot to check our staging. So what we're going to do is just create a new stage up here and drop our 4 panels into that stage, and we'll separate them as and when we need. Now, the second, less obvious problem is we don't have a Kerbal engineering unit on this craft. So let's just take off the egg-shaped fairing and have a look at the craft that we do have and see if anyone spots the other flaw in our plan. The other flaw in our plan, now that we look at it, is if we are intending to send just this top stage, if we take this off a moment, send just this top stage to do our rendezvous, we don't have a probe core on it. And I don't think the habitation module counts as a controllable device. So we're going to have to take care of that as well. Now we do have down here, if we open up, we do have this. We do have a probe core down here, but this is not in this top section. That's where the separator is. That's where the decoupler is. So we do have that there. And what I'm going to do, whilst we've got the doors open, is just go down to our science section and add our Kerbal engineering system in here. We only need the one, so let's just put that in there like so. So that will give us in-flight information. So let's just close that back up. That's something we'll have to save into the sub-assembly at a later date. But we now have a little bit of a problem. We have a little bit of a problem. How are we going to get ourselves a probe core into this top section to make it controllable? We've got 2 types of core. We've got this one, and let's put it just there. You can probably see it against the white tiling. And then we've got this one, and the only real difference is the number of sides that they have. The only really significant distance, and of course we've got this Stay Putnik as well, which is a little bit bigger, and it's really an end, so we don't really want that one. So what I was thinking of doing is, as terrible as this is, just maybe removing one of these batteries. There we go, remove one of these batteries and drop that unit in there like so. Doesn't really look very good, does it? This is why later on in the tech tree you can pick up flat, round probe cores for exactly this purpose. Now we could do a little bit of cheating. First of all, we need to make sure that this is the right way up. So let's put this down the right way, like so. Is that actually on? Yep, there we go, it's on. And what we could do is do a little bit of cheating with the old clipping. So let's get the offset tool and grab hold of our core and just hide it inside there. You didn't see anything. Literally, you did not see anything. So let's go back to the place mode. You can't really see, you can just about see that there is a battery on that section. So what I might do, let's just get rid of that probe core, is I might just use the same sort of offset trick. Yeah, offset. Let's just go down here, grab hold of that, and which way we're going to go now? We want to do this part and push it up. There we go. There we are. One place up. So we've basically hidden the battery from the lower section and the probe core from the upper section inside their respective neighbouring parts. So I hope you'll forgive me for that. But it doesn't really change the functionality of the station, and no one will notice, really. No one will notice. So let's just double check. We've got every part. We've got to get our egg-shaped fairing back on. So let's just do that. Let's make sure we add it with 4-way symmetry, just to match the number of nodes we have. Come on. There we go. 4-way symmetry. I think that's fully enclosed. Yes, yeah, it is. Okay. We've still got our fairing down here, so let's move them up to this extra stage we created. There we go. That's the extra stage that we created. So I think we should save this as the Mark II, because we did make some substantial changes there, and I think it's about time we get this up into space. Back out on the launch pad, this is a completely unmanned mission. We have 2 probe cores, one for the lower section so we can deorbit it and potentially bring it back to Kerbin and stage recover it, and one hidden probe at the top of the upper section of the habitat module. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward launch and rendezvous mission. So we will let this probe ascend according to its KOS script, and I will see you as we approach Minmus. You join us back with our habitation module, having overshot our orbit, or our rendezvous rather, just by a little bit. And this was because, rather annoyingly, the Mun kept getting in the way. So we had a lot of fiddling to do, shall we say. But we do have an encounter. Here is Minmus. Let's just focus on Minmus for a moment so we can see how we are going to arrive in our new sphere of influence. So it's going to be very much above our new sphere of influence right now, which is going to be a little bit awkward because we have to meet up with the colony command center, which is at an altitude of 99 kilometers in an equatorial plane, which is exactly what we are not, in an equatorial plane. So what I think we're going to do is, whilst we are still out here, is let's just add a maneuver and see if we can adjust our approach. And we're going to use precise node for this, so let's choose a small increment and just see if we can, oh that's the wrong way, see if we can bring our periapsis down much more into the plane of our colony control center. So it's getting very, very close to the surface. So let's pull away from the surface as well. And then let's keep going down. So we have a Minmus periapsis of 13 kilometers. That's quite close in. So we will pull ourselves out just a little. So let's see if we can bring ourselves more or less onto the same plane. So I think we're a little bit too far now. So let's just go back up. This is the plane that we are trying to meet. You can just see here, with all these lines drawn on it, you can just about see the Colony Control Center Mark I on this grey orbit here. So if we line that up with the center of the planet, you can see we are just a little bit below it. So let's bring it back up. There we go. So that's approximately right. So I think we should execute this tiny maneuver. So let's get ourselves lined up. So we now know roughly the direction that we want to burn. So let's just rotate ourselves round, find our maneuver node. There we go. Let's find our maneuver node right there. Just overshot it a little bit. So let's just come, bring it gently back and up and back across. There we go. Now we know roughly the direction we need to thrust in, so we may as well just thrust now. And just watch as our periapsis comes down towards our target. So we're just going to gently thrust. Very little throttle. And there we go. So that'll do just nicely. I think that will be fine. We're going to be coming in. On a much closer orbit into Minmus. So we will be catching up to our eventual target, so that's actually quite good. That's worked out pretty well. So I think the next thing we need to do is just bring ourselves around to our change of sphere of influence. Let's just warp to that change of sphere of influence. So we're just about to change now. Time warp's just dropping down for us automatically. We still have 2 hours and 35 minutes to go to periapsis. So let's just accelerate ourselves forward just a little bit so we come back into Minmus's sphere of influence. First time for this module. There we go. So we are now in the sphere of influence. And now we have to prepare to decelerate. So we're going to be quite close in, 23 kilometers. But that's good. It will cut down the number of orbits we need to take to catch up to the colony command center. The only problem will be if we just miss it on the first pass, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. So let's add a maneuver, and it's going to be a retrograde maneuver to bring ourselves into orbit. There we go. So let's bring ourselves into orbit. That's roughly right. Let's stick that exactly on the periapsis. You can see down here apoapsis and periapsis of 33 and 23 kilometers respectively. It doesn't have to be round. We're not worried about this being round at all. Our main concern is just getting ourselves captured and then rendezvousing. So we've got to be careful. We've got 163.5 meters per second. We've got a smidgen under 1,000 meters per second of delta V. Should be fine. Should be fine. So let's just make sure we're out of time warp, and let's just rotate the craft to get ourselves roughly in line with our eventual trajectory. So let's warp to about here. And then just evaluate our, there we go, evaluate our situation. So we're pretty close to equatorial. It doesn't have to be equatorial, it has to be in the same plane as the colony control center. So we will sort that out as part of our approach and rendezvous. So now we've got a 3-second burn. Now I've actually turned down. Here we are. We can put on our lights. There we go. We can see our light up docking ports there, glowing in the dark. Now I've actually turned down the thrust limiter a little to make this very large engine a little more manageable to use. So we've got 3-second burn to execute in just over 2 minutes. So let's do that manually. We'll bring forward time warp. And we've got just over 90 seconds. So let's start executing it now, just very, very gently. There we go. Now that was a 3-second burn with full throttle. It didn't take into account the throttle limiting, but we should be just fine. We started a nice few seconds early. There we go. We're in orbit, so let's just drop the throttle as we burn off the last of our delta V. There we go. Let's have a look. Let's go into map mode, see how we did. We have a periapsis of 17 kilometers. That's pretty low for this craft. An apoapsis of 29. So, but that's in orbit. We are now captured. We are in a nice orbit. We are a little off the plane of our new target. So let's get the colony command center as our target, and that will highlight for us the next important point, which is the ascending and descending node. Now we've just about missed the descending node, so let's come around to the ascending node and add a maneuver here, and we'll use this to lower the inclination of our orbit. So let's just grab hold of the handle and pull down just very gently until, there we go, until we see the two nodes flip over. Now we can use precise node again with a very fine adjustment just to see how we are. There we go, perfect, absolutely perfect. Ascending and descending nodes are now 0, so that's good. Now what we could be very adventurous. Should we be adventurous and see if we are going to swing around and then meet the colony command center here? I don't think we will, but let's have a go. So let us just pull on the prograde marker and see what our... No, we're going to be quite a long way out, aren't we? We are going to be quite a long way out. So that's where we're going to be, and our target's going to be well over there. Is that the right way around? Or are we going to be over there? Target position. Now that's target position. So we're going to miss it. So what I think we'll do is we will reduce this to 0. There we go, 0.0, and we'll worry about each maneuver as necessary. So let's just put this to effect. Right, let's warp around to our maneuver node. We should have a 3 minute warning. So let's just warp all the way around. Here we come. The habitation module Mark II. Here we are. So the time warp has now dropped to 0. Let's just have a look at our lovely craft. It's still got its lights on, so let's switch the lights off just to save a bit of electricity. So let's just find our maneuver node. There we go. It's a bit heavier, obviously. This end is rather heavy. It's making it quite difficult to manoeuvre. We could switch on the RCS, but that's only controlling this top half, so that's not really helping. So there we go. So let's just sit right there, and as we approach our node, so I'll just let's just move that way. We're just about to see node is in 2 minutes, so let's just accelerate forward just a little bit in time. We've got 90 seconds. So that's 50. Now 30. There we go. So let's come back out of time warp and just gently tease out as slowly as possible. Gently as possible, just puff out our maneuver. So we've got 3 meters per second to go, and we will cut the engine as soon as this is burned out. There we go. So we should now have ascending and descending nodes, there we go, of 0. Right, now we have to plan our rendezvous. So let's put in a maneuver node here and just stretch it out until we get a maneuver. There we go. So that's where our target is going to be. It's going to be a little bit ahead of us. So we need to bring it later in time. So let's bring it... Is that going the right way? Can't tell. It's got bigger steps. There we go. It's coming forward. So let's go slightly bigger steps again. Bigger. To go quite a way around. There we go. So smaller steps. Starting to get really close now. So that's going to be 4.6 kilometers. So let's just take a little bit of a look at where the intercept actually is. So I think we need a little more prograde. Let's go down to a tiny amount of additional prograde. See the markers coming together. Now past. So we need to adjust our node time to bring it back. Which way do we need to bring it? There we go. So we're going to be coming in almost exactly parallel, and it's going to be 800 meters away. If we can execute this, we'll be doing pretty well. We'll be doing pretty well. So this is going to be our rendezvous. So it's going to take us 18 meters per second. We still have 824 meters per second. So let's just warp to here, just bring us around. We're going to be on the dark side of Minmus, so that's going to make it a little bit difficult to see what we're doing from the space view, but we'll carry out most of this maneuver, I think, from map mode. So we've got just under 4 minutes to go, so let's get ourselves all lined up. Let's find our maneuver node. Bring it around. So we're on our maneuver node. And now let's just use time warp just to bring ourselves. You can just see us there. HM Mark II, Her Majesty, coming around the backside of Minmus. So just under 2 minutes, coming up to 90 seconds, 60 seconds. So let's bring us out of time warp, and again I'm just going to dribble out our 18 meters per second of burn. See our apoapsis extending here, and we'd really like that to meet, just kiss the orbit, because that'll bring us in almost exactly parallel to our target and mean that our differential in speed should be almost zero. That's the intention anyway. So we've got just 2 meters per second left to burn off. Oh, there we go. We're going slightly away from our target now. So we've gone slightly over. So that was just a little bit too much. So we know we're going slightly over. So let's just turn ourselves round and see if we can adjust these, what are now 2 intersection points, and see if we can bring them together. So again, we want to just dribble out the tiniest amount of delta V. There we go. So that intersection is going to be around about 500 meters. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So let's go round to this side of Minmus. Let's just rotate ourselves around to this side. We can see here is where our colony command center is coming into view, and here's the habitation module coming around. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to match velocity and trajectory. So actually we're now basically going to circularize our orbit relative to both Minmus and obviously our colony command center. So we literally are parked in an identical orbit. So let's just come out of map mode and see where we are. There we go. There's our colony command center. It is 16.1 kilometers away at present. And as I was saying, because we're coming in almost parallel, our target velocity is a mere 18 meters per second. The differential between us and our target is just 18 meters per second. That is pretty good, if I don't say so myself. I just had a sudden thought. We did put these modules on, these docking modules, the right way around, and yet I can, whoops, crew hatch this side as opposed to fit ship this side, which is what I think it says on the other side. So we are now approaching nice and gently. So let's just allow time warp to narrow this gap down from 15 kilometers down to something much smaller. So there we go, times 10 time warp. There's Kerbin in the background. Nice view. Where's oh, there's Minmus. I thought we'd lost Minmus for a minute. So 12 kilometers. Let's just take a bit of time to do this gently. You can see we're almost parallel now. You can see our two vectors, our retrograde vectors there, are almost perfectly lined up. Let's get ready to slow down. So let's just reduce time warp. I've just lost my target, so let's just can I set that as target? Yeah, there we go. Set it as target by double clicking on it, and just get ready to slow down. Here we go. So 7 kilometers. Up to times 10 time warp. 6 kilometers, coming down to 5. 4. So we're coming down to just under 2 kilometers. So let's just slow ourselves down, and we do that by herding those two markers together. And that'll bring down our relative velocities and nudge the two together. There we go. So again, we're only just a smidgen over, or smidgen under 9 meters per second relative velocity. So let's just allow ourselves to drift together, and then once we've parked up next to our colony command center, we will separate off this module. And hopefully we've got our RCS thrusters and we've got our probe core all ready to do our manoeuvring. So let's just bring it into under 1 kilometer. So we're 9 meters per second. There we go. We're just coming up to 1 kilometer. Let's get ourselves lined up and ready to reduce our velocity just a little bit more. A lot of exhaust fumes there from such a tiny puff of our engine. 5 meters per second. That's 750 meters. Now we are going to have to do a bit of orbital shenanigans in order to detach our various parts, because we've still got the engine section attached to the colony command center, so we're going to have to park that out of the way as well. So 5 meters per second. See if we can get ourselves just a little bit more lined up. There we go, coming up to 500 meters per second. 500 meters, not 500 meters per second. A bit high for an approach velocity, if I don't say so myself. So that's 400 meters. We've still got 800, almost 800 meters per second of delta V. So we did have plenty of delta V to maneuver, and we're going to use the remaining delta V to return these craft back to Kerbin so we can recover some of the funds for them. The more funds we recover, the more profit we'll be able to get. So almost 300 meters. You can just about make out the actual craft now. You can just about make it out. You can just about see, there you go, the Gigantor panels that we have on. So it's 200 meters per second, 200 meters to go. So I think it's about time we brought this right down. And we're just drifting off to one side. So let's just bring it back. So that's 1 meter per second we're now approaching it. So let's just move ourselves around. It's a bit weighty at the back end, which makes it rather difficult to maneuver. So we're 100 meters. I'm getting tempted. Maybe we'll bring it to 100 meters. I don't want to get too close because I don't want the parts drifting in and crashing into one another. And I don't want them flying off at different directions either. So I do really want them parked quite close together. So 170. You can definitely see the station now. There's the lower fuel section, which is the same as this. It's the lower Rockomax fuel tank. Coming up to 160 meters. So we go 150 meters. I think that's probably going to be close enough, at least for now. So let's just kill off the rest of our approach speed and just park up with 0 relative speed. There we go. So we're probably just a smidgen drifting away now, and I'm not too worried about that. I'd rather they were drifting apart than not at all. So let's just line ourselves up. So we want to get ourselves, which way? We're going to be parked this way round. There we go. We're going to be parked this way round to the other stations. Let's get it lined up, because this docking port is basically going to be stacked in there. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to line ourselves up north. So there we go, we line ourselves up north, and that is going to be our parked position for the remainder of our manoeuvres. So with that said, I'd like to thank you for watching, because we're going to do the docking and construction of our site and our station in the next episode. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you would like to like this video, please do so, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.